You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And right off the bat, baby, this one is probably going to be a lot more negative than what we've come to expect when I talk about our boys in red. Even when we don't have a great game, I usually try to find some positives, some silver linings. This game, that is not going to be the case. This will probably be the most negative I think I've ever spoken about the Canadian men's national team. So that is just a heads up. If you want to hear positive recap, go listen to the Honduras one again, because this will not be that. Real quick with the Maple start, not too much to talk about. CPL teams haven't really played. The only ones that have been Halifax and Vancouver FC. Halifax won that game 1-0 with a goal from TMG, Thomas Mergiger. And yeah, KG affair, what you've kind of come to expect from a Vancouver FC game. They're just trying to, as bad as it sounds, trying to keep it close. I'm sorry, Vancouver. I do have some faith in you, but as the season goes on, not it's dwindling. Some transfer news: Daniel Jebison has gotten himself a loan move to Preston in the second tier of England. Liam Miller, Hive shout out, got a loan move a couple years ago to Preston. Impressed really well. So hoping for the same from Daniel Jebison. I think he'll do him a world of good to get a regular minutes. He wasn't getting that at Bournemouth, obviously. So we'll see, hopefully. And last but not least, Luke DeFougerolles is apparently attracting some attention from the Vancouver Whitecaps. How do you feel about that move? Very mixed in and around the Canada fan base. A lot of people are kind of for it. A lot of people are kind of against it. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I feel like he should stay in England and see if he can maybe get himself a good loan move. But also Whitecaps are a good team. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm leaning towards don't do it. But I guess if nothing else comes in, maybe do it. But yeah, how about we move into this recap? But first, a special shout out. This will be going up on June 22nd, which I don't usually share much of my personal life. But my parents' wedding anniversary. Oh my goodness, please don't mess this up. 29 years of marriage, and just want to say thank you for being my biggest supporters, obviously. My entire family is, of course. But yeah, for being my biggest supporters and for really helping me along with the podcast and everything, and just in life in general, away from Maple Footy in life. Couldn't have asked for two better parents. So thank you for getting married all those years ago, and thank you for being Maple Footy listeners. But yeah, no, seriously, happy wedding anniversary to them. And that's about as positive as we're about to be. So why don't we get into it? So usually with the men's national team games, I go pros, cons, player by player, substitutions, all that, because I like to do it like that. This time, I'm probably still going to kind of stick to that a little bit, but I think I'm kind of going to just talk, and we'll kind of see where that takes me. I wrote down a couple notes, which once again I usually write down pages upon pages for these, but I wrote down just a couple jot notes, and I'm just gonna yap essentially until I feel like I've yapped enough. Yeah, here we'll start off with my notes that I wrote down, and we will go from there, I suppose. Well, that's me dragging my phone on the charger. Sorry about that for your ears. So we are showing an extreme lack of consistency under Jesse Marsch. One game we play like we're the best team in the world, i.e. Honduras, 6-0. And then this game, or the next game, i.e. Curacao, we play terribly, just awful. And I know the excuse tonight was, well, it's really hot. And I get that. Heat sucks, guys. Like, yeah, if it's really hot, I don't want that. But also, you got to go out there and play. And we didn't go out there and play. We went out there for 10 minutes and played, for sure. And then every subsequent minute after that, it looked like we wanted to just let Curacao back in. Curacao made a lot of different changes. They were seeing what was working for them and kept on trying it. They were seeing what wasn't working for them and stopped trying it. Us, we just didn't learn from our mistakes on the day, and that's concerning because that's been something that has been following us for at bare minimum since Jesse Marsh has been in. We're not learning, and we're not applying what we should be learning to change what we're doing. Like, I love Kamal Miller, and I thought he was getting scapegoated a little bit in this performance, but he tried that ball over the defense, 3 or 4 times, and it never worked. At a certain point, as a manager, you have to say, it's not working. And that's just one example, you know? What else did I have in this note? I said, damn whistle. Damn whistle indeed. Yeah, if you don't know, there was a whistle in the stands, the packed stands of Houston, that just kept on being blown. And it kind of actually bailed us out at a point because at one point, Curacao puts a ball in, and then a whistle is blown, and then everybody thinks the play's dead. The ball hits Saliba's hand, but then it comes out that it wasn't the referee's whistle, it was a whistle in the stands. So, yes, it would have been a very harsh penalty to give, but also by the letter of the law, it actually wouldn't have been. So, as the commentary team said, if you're Curacao, you're going, we're hard done by there. But if you're Canada and say it gets given, you're going, well, come on, we heard a whistle and we thought play was dead. So I see it from both ways. In essence, why was that whistle even out? It's not like it would have taken long to find the supporter with the whistle, is my point, because I said the pack stands of Houston, the pact of about 200, maybe. Yeah, that's another thing. This is away from Canada, I guess. Why are all these tournaments being held in the States? I know why, because money, but you have the Gold Cup, MLS, Club World Cup all going on. MLS has decent attendance. It's a team-by-team basis, and that's fair. The Club World Cup, not good. And Gold Cup in America hasn't been good. Canada was in Vancouver, and there was a reported 20,000 there. That's off the top of my head. It was in the 20s. We'll say 20,000 to make it even. But yeah, why are our group stage games not in Canada? Or I'm sure Curacao would probably have a good turnout. You know, remember when we played Suriname in Suriname? Very small country, very small stadium, but it was packed. You know, I know it wasn't. It's not like it was thousands upon thousands upon thousands, but it was a couple thousand in there. You know, or even have us play in Canada. You know, we have stadiums. We have Montreal. We have BMO, Hamilton. Yeah, look at some of the CPL team stadiums. You know, getting off track, getting back on track is something that's impressed me. We'll be positive again for a little bit. Has been Zorhan Bassong. They said on commentary that the coaching staff has said Bassong's been one of, if not the hardest trainers in the camp. I think that's super impressive. He's a guy that knows he's fighting for his spot. He's wearing that badge with honor, and he knows, I think, what it means to try to fight to get here. And I think you love to see that, and it's hard not to support that. As I had said when we played Ukraine, I thought Bassong was phenomenal, and that was when, you know, he had just been told he's not going to the Gold Cup, right? Of course, then Sam Akubi sadly gets injured. Zorhan Bassong steps in, and he looked good against Honduras when he came off the bench, and he was our best player. Obviously a low bar, but even without that low bar, I thought he actually put in a good performance. So Zorhan Bassong, thank you for at least putting in an effort and looking like you gave a shit. Moving in to some injuries, Cornelius and Oso are out injured. Who knows the timeline or time that they'll be back? We need midfielders and we need defenders, so please, hopefully soon. We struggle in these CONCACAF type games, and by that I mean when we're playing a team that's like proper CONCACAF, like, you know, a Curacao, or obviously Mexico, all due respect to Curacao, is a better team, but they play like a very CONCACAF type way. They're going to be frustrating. They're going to get in your head. They're going to kick your shins. They're going to, the dark arts, you know? We struggle greatly against these teams, and we look like we don't have an answer. We look like we don't have a way out. We look like shell-shocked. Like, how could you be doing this? You know? And we haven't learned. We haven't learned from this. Why are we not beating Curacao? And by the way, extremely lucky not to lose on the night. This was 1-1. We are extremely lucky not to lose on the night, okay? Because they had a goal called offside by VAR. And I'm from the naked eye, hand on heart, I truly believe he was even with Joe Waterman. Maybe, and I know they drew the lines and it looked like he was off, but looking at them without the lines, they looked on. I guess what I'm saying is I feel like those lines were manipulated just a little bit. A refereeing decision going Canada's way is crazy. Then they had another goal, which this one was proper offside, but the concerning part for this goal was our goalkeeper, Dane St. Clair, comes 84 yards off his line, goes to punch the ball and misses the ball, leaving the Curacao striker to have an open net because Joe Waterman is just watching him, and he puts in the back of the net. Once we're bailed out because of the offside. Okay. What are we doing? What are we doing? In a year's time, we are playing the best of the best at the World Cup. And we're hosting that World Cup. We can't even get it done convincingly against Curacao. And that's all due respect to Curacao because also they played a good game, Curacao. We can't get it done against them. What are we doing? What was my next note? We could have lost and should have lost. Okay, that ties into what I just said. Some disappointing on the night. Another one of my notes. From going through to now having to get a result against El Salvador. And I think we should get a result against El Salvador, but I also thought we should beat Curacao. So you don't know. But now it's still in our hands very much so. But we go from looking like we're going to get 6 of 6 points. Not that we deserved the points on the night. And then we gave it up in stoppage time. And I have thoughts on our stoppage time. Don't worry, I'll get there. I have thoughts on that. And what my last note was, took them too lightly and let them back in. We play up to our opponent. And I think that's valid because I find when we play the very good teams, we play up to them. Like I'm thinking that France friendly. I'm thinking the Copa run. I'm thinking Ukraine even. You know, we play up to these teams. When we play a team where it feels like we got this, it feels very much more difficult than it should. Okay? Because I don't know, it might be a mentality thing. Is it a coaching staff thing? I don't know. I really don't. But we'll go into player by player a little bit because then I feel like I'll kind of have a lot to say for a good few players because I have a lot to say for them. So we will start with our goalkeeper, Dane St. Clair. Now, those who have been listening know that I absolutely love Maxime Crepeau. It's no secret. I'm not going to hide it. Maxime Crepeau is our best available goalkeeper. He's a proven winner. He has shown many times, basically every time he's worn a Canada jersey, that he is more than up to the task. He's a leader, in my opinion, and he just has a different aura about him. And I know you're probably thinking, what does that even mean? I don't know. He just puts on that jersey, and there's something different about Maxime Crepeau. You can show me the club stats. You can show me all the different clean sheets, because I'm pretty sure Dane St. Clair has more clean sheets than Maxime Crepeau for Canada. The fact of the matter is Maxime Crepeau makes saves that Dane St. Clair can't, and Maxime Crepeau steps up for Canada. Dane St. Clair has yet to do so. And I say this as someone that likes Dane St. Clair, and I think he is a great number 2 to have. I think Maxime Crepeau has to be our starting goalkeeper. Case in point, look at that offside goal that Dane St. Clair lets in. And I know you're going to, well, it's offside. It doesn't matter. It does matter because if that's not offside, that's a goal on our goalkeeper. You have to have your utmost faith in the goalkeeper. And I personally do not have that in Dane St. Clair. And, I could be in the minority. I honestly do not know. Maxime Crepeau, to me, is our best goalkeeper. And it's not even close. It's just not. And Dane St. Clair has had a phenomenal season for Minnesota. I don't want to take anything away from him. He has had a phenomenal season for Minnesota. I believe he's leading the league with clean sheets or shot. He's leading the leagues in something. I just think Maxime Crepeau has to be our starter. And for me, it's a concern when he's not. Dane St. Clair made one decent save. It's a save he should make. If he doesn't make it, it's bad. And I just think Maxime Crepeau, he can just do things that no other goalkeeper that we have can do. He makes saves that should not have been made. And looking back at our Copa run, he was he was, in my opinion, our best player. And I know, how are you gonna say a goalkeeper was? He was. The things he was doing in that tournament was unreal. Some of the saves he made against, and I know we lost both times against Argentina. Those games could have been way worse without Maxime Crepeau. Those group stage games that were literally played on a knife's edge. Like one mistake and it's over. He's phenomenal. The penalty shootout against Venezuela, absolutely unreal in that. A great performance in the penalty shootout. I just don't think we have another goalkeeper that can do that. This is also a guy that, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, has broken his leg to win an MLS Cup. That's how much he wants to win. That's how much he knows what it takes to win. And now I'm not saying I expect every single player to break their leg for a win, but I'm saying that's the type of winner mentality that Maxime Crepeau has. And for me, it's just not close. He is our best goalkeeper. And I say that as someone that likes Dane St. Clair, but Maxime Crepeau, to me, he needs to be in. I don't expect it to change. I do still expect Dane St. Clair to be our number one going forward, and probably, if everyone's healthy, going into the World Cup. And I just think Maxime Crepeau, he just should be. He's just a different breed. Our defense, extremely disappointing on the day. Very much so. I know we're without really any number one defender. Nico Seeger, I don't have much to say on him. I don't think he was particularly great, but I also don't think he was particularly tested. He looked very frustrated at times, and that's really all I have to say on him. Zoran Bassong, I already kind of said my positives on him. I thought he was our best player. He was our best defender by a country mile. I'm really glad to see him taking this opportunity by the scruff of the neck, and he seems to really be running with it. So full credit to him. I love to see that. He's the kind of player that we're missing right now. Someone that is playing for their spot, that is playing to impress. Because after the game, I was chatting with my dad and my sister, and they made a good point of when we had the World Cup qualifier run, we played up to we played higher than our bar. Like, we played out of our skins to qualify for that World Cup. And those guys were playing to impress. They knew they had to impress. We don't have a team of players that needs to impress. We have a team of players that knows that most of their spots are locked. Like, they're not playing with that grit. They're not playing with that determination. They're playing so nonchalant and lackadaisical. They're not playing as Steven Vittoria was, as a Atiba Hutchinson was, as a Kyle Larin was. They're not playing like that. And I know, but these guys are better than our World Cup qualifier players. They might have been. They might be, they might be. I'm not seeing it, though. I'm not seeing it. We're the best team in the world on paper, is what we've been led to believe. Obviously, best team in the world is an exaggeration. That is an exaggeration. But we've been led to believe that we're the best team in CONCACAF on paper. And anytime we have a chance to prove it, we have failed at the finish line. We have. The CONCACAF Nations League failed. Copa America, everybody raves about that tournament. But in the end, We didn't win it, right? And that was a phenomenal tournament, don't get me wrong. But everybody hangs out and, well, we were the furthest team in CONCACAF to make it. Do you know what that gives? That gives Arsenal fans going, over the last 3 years, we've accumulated the most amount of points. Okay? And I don't want to discredit that Copa run because it was phenomenal. But my point being, anytime we've had the chance to show it, we haven't shown it. We can't beat Mexico. We've beaten the States twice in friendlies because the third place game in the CONCACAF Nations League doesn't count. It doesn't count for anything. It doesn't matter. Like, it's nice to win it, but who cares? And we beat them in a friendly in September. Okay? We have yet to prove when it matters most that we are, in fact, the best team on the pitch, not on paper, in CONCACAF. We haven't done it, and this Gold Cup is our chance to do it, and I'm scared we're not going to do it. So that was a bit of a sidetrack. Zoran Bassong really lit a fire under me. We'll move into our center backs. Kamal Miller was the scapegoat of the night, and don't get me wrong, I don't think Kamal was good. In the first half, in particular, I thought he had a very shocking first half. It was not good. I cut him some slack. He has really not played under Jesse Marsch at all. This was just his second start under Marsch out of a possible 19, and Kamal's only played 7 in total, and 2 of those are starts. So I cut him a little bit of slack, and also he's one of those players that he's done it for Canada, you know? And I still think he's our third best center back. You know, I do. I really do. I think he's our third best center back. We have, you know, some guys that may have a higher ceiling than him. But right now, based on what I see, he's our third best center back, and I don't think it's close. I think that our 2 starting center backs are definitely our 2 nailed on starting center backs, and then I think Kamal's right below them, and then I think after that it's a bunch of guys fighting for the 4th center back spot. He wasn't great on the night, though, however. In the second half, I thought he got better. He looked a bit more assured defensively, looked more comfortable. He looked more settled as well. He made a nice play in stoppage time, I believe, when it was 1-1, where one of the Curacao players was charging through on goal, and Kamal just gets his body in the way. And it allows Dane St. Clair to come and pick it up. Those are things that you don't see. Those are things that the stats won't tell you, which is another reason why I don't always hang my hat on stats. You got to watch the game. Next to him was Joel Waterman, and he looked like a liability all night long. I will say the one good thing he did on the night was he was robbed of an assist. It was a beautiful ball through to Tanny Oluwaseyi. He picks up the ball, he carries it, puts in a beautiful through ball to Tanny Oluwaseyi, and Oluwaseyi fluffs his lines. And yeah, I will have a lot to say on Tanny. Sorry, Tanny. But yeah, Joel Waterman just looked like a liability all night. He was getting run at. He didn't look like he had an answer. He didn't look comfortable on the ball, apart from that one moment. And yeah, I wasn't impressed. I know Waterman, of these 2, is probably the more likely to get the start. Jesse Marsch seems to like him more than Kamal. And I don't know why. I don't know what Jesse Marsch has against Kamal. But it's obviously something, because Jesse Marsch does not seem to want to play Kamal Miller. I could be wrong, and maybe Kamal's the starting center back next game. I don't think so. I hope he is, but I don't think he will be. Next up, we're going to move into our midfield. We'll start with Jaden Nelson, just because I thought he had the quietest night. He didn't really get the ball, didn't have a whole ton to do, which was a shame. I was really excited to see Jaden Nelson start. I really thought this was a big chance for him. I'm not going to say he blew it, but he just didn't get involved enough, and he wasn't involved enough. He wasn't allowed to get involved enough either. So yeah, I don't think it's fully on him, but I also think sometimes you have to just grab the game, you know, especially in that position. On the left was Jacob Schaffelberg, and I think it's time that we have that conversation about Schaffelberg. He's a 20-minute-a-game player for us, I believe. And hey, I love Schaffelberg, right? I've seen him come through the TFC Academy and play for TFC, go over to Nashville. I've seen him score a brace against Lionel Messi for Nashville. I saw him do what he did at the Copa America last summer, was one of our main goal contributors last summer. I just think Jacob Schaffelberg is a 20-minute-a-game player for us. I think he's very speedy. He knows how to get to the net, but I find his decision making and sometimes his runs aren't always the best. I feel like he might be too fast for his own good. But yeah, I think he's more effective if he comes on in the last 20 minutes and runs at a tired defense. That's really what I think, because once you figured out his run and his speed, I don't think he's able to offer us a whole ton more. And I know that probably sounds really harsh, but that's just what I see. And like I will say to compliment him, he's either our X factor where he's about to produce something great, or he's a non-factor. And I find when he's a non-factor, it's like we're playing with 10 men. So it kind of pains me to say, because I do like Jacob Schaffelberg, but that's just how I feel about his play style a little bit. I had said that for a bit last summer. I'd said I liked Liam Miller. I love Liam Miller. I'm the head of the Liam Miller hive, if you will. But yeah, I just find that they're both different players, right? But Jacob Schaffelberg, he's a very much more direct player. But I find, and I think I've said this on the podcast, I find he's a one-trick pony. By God, he's great at that trick. But if he's not doing that trick, he's not doing much at all outside of that trick. And once again, he's a player that has been hindered with injury this season, so that obviously doesn't help. But then also, I think as a manager, you have to look at that and assess that. And don't worry, I will have words to say on Jesse Marsch as well. So stick around for all that. But yeah, our two central midfielders, Nathan Saliba, I almost call him Liam Saliba. Nathan Saliba, I thought he was the better of the two. I mean, he does get a good goal on the night. It was a good goal. Best Saliba in world football, of course. But yeah, he didn't look as comfortable with Kone as he did with Choinière. I don't know. Maybe that's because they haven't really played much together for Canada, or maybe he was just on one against Hunter. I don't think it was just that. I mean, Nathan Saliba is a very good player. You can see it with him. But yeah, I just don't think he looked as comfortable. He didn't look as influential. He didn't look as all over the pitch. He looked a little bit more sloppy. His touch wasn't as great. He wasn't progressing the ball as much. He wasn't as good defensively as he was against Honduras. And his partner next to him, Ishmael Kone. It's been a strange year for Ishmael Kone. Like a very strange one. He gets that move to Marseille. It hasn't worked out. Now he's with Rennes on loan, and his future is very much up in the air. I will say they had alluded to a family matter, which is why he wasn't at the first game. So I won't go as hard on Ishmael Kone as I probably have on other players, just because obviously that's probably his mind might be elsewhere. I don't know what those family matters were, of course, but his mind could be elsewhere. I don't think he was phenomenal on the night. I thought his decision-making let him down. He had a couple nice moments on the ball, I will say that. There was that one moment in the first half right near the touchline where he dribbled out of pressure of like 3 Curacao players, and that was very nice. I just found his final ball and his decision-making weren't great. But I'll leave it at that just because, like I said, I feel like he may have bigger things to worry about. But I don't know, so I'm not going to sit here and speculate, and I'll just leave it at that. Our strikers, Jonathan David. I thought this was a very poor game for Jonathan David. We're used to seeing him be very influential. What I did like about Jonathan David's game is he was tracking back constantly. There was moments where he was in our left back position, and that is just typical Jonathan David for Team Canada. It does still terrify me every time he's out there, just because injury, contract, So knocking on wood, hopefully he gets out of this tournament unscathed and healthy. But yeah, he didn't look great. He wasn't linking up play as well as he usually does. He was giving the ball away a lot, I found. And he just looked a little bit tired, honestly. I don't know how else to put it. He looked a bit tired. Maybe he is. He's got a lot of game under those legs. And maybe he could have used a rest. Maybe this would have been a nice game to test Promise David or Daniel Jebison, see what they can offer. But we stuck with Jonathan David. So that's where I'm at with Jonathan David on this game. Tanny Oluwaseyi. I compared him to Darwin Nunez last episode and the episode before that as well. And I still think that's a valid comparison. I think he should have had bare minimum 1 goal. Yeah, he's just a striker that I don't hang my hat on him to score. And that's bad as a striker. He gets himself into the right positions. He makes a lot of good plays, but when it comes down to scoring, he just doesn't. And he should have on the day. And maybe that's harsh. I don't know. But I find we're saying that a lot about Tanny Oluwaseyi. And as a manager, you have to look and you have to go, who is going to do the job for us? And I don't think at the moment that's Tanny Oluwaseyi. I'm sorry, and I know he's another one that's having a very good season. And like I said, I do rate him as a player. I'm just not sure he's a striker that we can hang our hats on. And it goes back to all those times I've said we're wasteful in front of net, and we were on the day here, and he was one of the main culprits of it. And I find that he is one of the main culprits of it most times he's on for Canada, which is baffling to me because when he's with Minnesota, you feel like he gets these easy and he scores these easy chances. But with Canada, I don't know. Something's different. He just doesn't. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's trying to impress too hard. Maybe he's I don't know. I don't get it. Because we've seen that he can do it with Minnesota, but we haven't seen it with Canada. And it's very strange. But as a manager, I think you have to look at that and you have to go look at our striker pool right now. And I've been critical of us bringing 5 strikers, and I still think that's excessive. But you've brought 5 strikers. Why is the guy that can't convert at the moment starting? And it's not like, oh, we don't know if he can convert or if he can't. We know he can't. Like, we know he can't. Because he hasn't. When you have a guy like Promise David in the form of his life right now, and he's not playing, he's got 2 caps for Canada, and he's got 2 goals. That's what we know. Tanny Oluwaseyi has many more caps and 2 goals. Daniel Jebison, we don't really know what he can do. He hasn't had a whole ton. He's had 1 start against the Ivory Coast, and he admittedly didn't look great, but you can see the potential there. But we don't really know, okay? But we know with Tanny, and I think as a manager, you have to make that tough call. You have to make that tough call. And we've yet to see Jesse Marsch make those tough calls. And I'll talk a little bit more about Jesse Marsch after I talk about our subs, because my heart goes out to Ali Ahmed. Comes on, and no more than 3 minutes later, it was a nasty challenge by the Curacao man, and Ali Ahmed looked like he was holding his ankle, and he looked in some pain, and we should have subbed him off immediately. Now, I'm not part of the medical staff. I've never claimed to know medical anything. Why did we allow Ali Ahmed to go back onto the pitch? They wrapped him up and they let him go, and immediately he's already limping. Why is he back on the pitch, especially after what happened with Alphonso Davies at the Nations League, and then with Sam Adekubi at the Canadian Shield? We have such a microscope on our injuries and medical staff at the moment because of everything that happened with Alphonso Davies in particular and Bayern Munich. Why are we not learning from this? It goes back. We're not learning. And once again, I know I'm not a medical expert, so maybe there's different protocol. I don't know. But then the fact that you still end up pulling him off after you've wrapped him and you let him run on it a little bit more for 5 or 10 minutes, what good is that doing? It's not. It's just not. It's not. You have to save these guys from themselves sometimes, and you have to pull them off. Because I know the player is going to want to play, but you have to make that tough call. You have to. So Tajon comes on for him in the 70th. It wasn't the exciting Tajon that we've had for the last few games. It was only 20 minutes. He didn't have a whole ton to do. He had a half chance. Ball kind of gets stuck between his feet. By the time he gets it out and around a defender, another defender recovers, kicks it out of play, and that was the end of the game. It was literally the last play of the game. Mathieu Choinière came on for Ishmael Kone, and I will say he looked more comfortable than Ishmael Kone, and he made Nathan Saliba look more comfortable playing next to him. They just seem to have a good chemistry, the two of them. So we'll see what midfield we line up with next. Alistair Johnston, I have a lot to say on Alistair Johnston because I think I'm most disappointed in him as far as players go on the day. Because what was he doing for that goal? And I love Alistair Johnston, and he's probably earned this a little bit. Like, he's earned a bit of a slip up because the amount of goals that he has saved for us and the amount of goals that he has created for us or has had a hand in creating, he's probably earned this. But I will just say that this was extremely disappointing to see. Middle of the pitch, loses the ball, and then lays on the ground as Curacao goes up and scores in stoppage time. In stoppage time, when you're 1-0 up in a cagey game, you count on your veterans and the guys that you know can do it to help you see this over the line. Alistair Johnston is one of those guys, and he has been for basically his entire Canada career. And he doesn't do it here. Now, like I cut him a little bit of slack, just a little bit, because of everything he's done for Canada and because of how good he has been, but this is his one. If he's doing this again, I won't be pleased. I'm not pleased now, but I can at least go, you know what? Of anybody, he's probably earned that one. Like, he's done enough to kind of get away with it a little bit, but I will say extremely, extremely disappointing when you're trying to see it out and you're counting on one of your veterans and you're counting on one of your biggest players, and that's what he does. It's very disappointing. But like I said, he's probably earned that right. In the 89th minute, this was another one that made me scratch my head. We bring on Kyle Larin for Jacob Schaffelberg to have on 3 strikers on the pitch when we're trying to see out the game. What? If we were 1-0 down, I'd get it. But we're trying to defend, and Curacao had all the momentum. What was the thought process behind that? Like, really, what was the thought process? I want to know. We're 1-0 up and need to defend the lead, and we bring on a striker for a winger. So now we're just playing with whatever Frankenstein formation that we've got cooking now, and we concede. Who would have thought? We concede because we have 3 strikers on the pitch. Huh? It made no sense to me. Because when Kyle Larin was coming on, I was like, okay, I guess we're probably going striker for striker. Wouldn't be the change I'd be making, but okay. At least it's striker for striker. And then Schaffelberg's number went up, and I was like, what? Huh? And like, it's not like, and I've defended Kyle Larin multiple times on this podcast, right? And so it's not even because I'm like a Kyle Larin hater or nothing. I quite like Kyle Larin. Why was he on? Why did we bring him on when we were not chasing the game? We were actually trying to defend the game. What? It made no sense to me. So yeah, I guess we'll talk a little bit about Jesse Marsch now. Is the honeymoon period over? It feels like it's been over for a little bit, but it feels over. Once again, we'll always respect and love what he did for us in the Copa America, because that was an unreal run, and we had no right to go on that run. Like, we didn't, you know? But since the Copa, we've been extremely up and down and inconsistent and have been making the same mistakes over and over again. Our midfield still looks overrun. Our strikers still are wasteful outside of Jonathan David. Our defense looks good, but without our stars, quote unquote, he doesn't look like he has a nailed on Here's my second choice. It's been Waterman. It's been Kamal. It's been DeFougerel. It's been Knight LaBelle. It's been Seager at right back. It's been Atakubi. It's been Vassong. And hey, I'm all for depth, but you also need to have a little bit of stability. Our goalkeeping position, he says, isn't locked. It feels pretty locked on Dane St. Clair. He says he picks on form, but it feels pretty locked on Dane St. Clair. But we've seen Maxime Crepeau do amazing for us, and ever since the Copa, he's struggled to get a game for us, which is interesting. And I find his squad selection is letting us down a little bit. And I know everybody always makes it out about, is this the best Canada squad that we've ever had? I remember those conversations during the CONCACAF Nations League when that squad came out, and everyone was saying, is this the best squad we've ever had? I don't know. I think that this is the best depth pool that we've ever had, but I don't think we're using it. And I do understand you're not going to please everyone. So maybe I'm just the one guy that's sitting here, with a microphone saying these things of, I'm disappointed with some of the squad choices because, like I said, you're not gonna please everyone. You can't. There's 32 million. How many people are in Canada now? 32 million, something like that. I don't know. So you're not gonna please all of them. I mean, not all of them even watch soccer, but in theory, you're not gonna please everyone, right? But it just feels like when you have certain solutions staring you right in the face and certain information from the guys that you've seen play, why are certain guys in and why are certain guys not? For instance, I've been saying for about a year now, our midfield has been overrun. And I think we have an answer to that. His name is Samuel Piette. And I know some people love Samuel Piette, and I know some people don't love Samuel Piette. I'm one of those people that love Samuel Piette, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. But when our midfield's overrun, which it has been basically in most games that I've seen us play, we need a defensive midfielder that can help break up play, that has a vision for a pass, that could unlock certain defenses, Samuel Piette's didn't get a sniff at the goal at the Copa America last summer and hasn't been called up since. Okay. Obviously, he doesn't want Piette. Okay. We've seen multiple times Samuel O'Shea, he missed chance after chance. But we have guys sitting at home right now, sitting with their teams right now, like a Jason Russell Rowe. Maybe he's missing the same chances. I don't know. But he hasn't really been given a shot. Theo Bair had the season of his life last year heading into the Copa America. He gets 10 minutes in the third place game against Uruguay, and then he gets on against Suriname in the CONCACAF Nations League, and we haven't seen him since. He wasn't given a shot after the best season of his life. Does anybody else not find that strange? Why is he not given a shot? After the best season, he was a Motherwell's player of the season coming into that Copa America, and he got 10 minutes in the third place game. Come on. Other guys, even Kamal Miller himself, who played on the night, he's not a regular call-up anymore. And I understand everyone sees it differently, but to me, he is our third best center back at the moment. And he's struggling to get a call-up, and when he gets a call-up, he's struggling to get minutes. What? Kyle Hebert hasn't been called up since the Copa America, hasn't played since our 0-0 draw against France when he got all of 6 minutes. He's had a very good season with St. Louis so far. He's not getting called up. Those are just some guys off the top of my head, there's so many more, I'm sure. And like I said, I understand everyone's heated differently and all that. But when certain guys, especially like a Samuel Piette or in our striking position, if you want to bring 5, which I still think is excessive, but he wants to bring 5 for whatever reason, and he doesn't. And even the guys that are there, Promise David, 2 caps, 2 goals, and he can't get in against Curacao. It doesn't make sense to me. He's in the form of his life. Even if he's a one-season wonder, you still have to strike while the iron's hot. You capitalize on that. We haven't outside of Jonathan David, we've never had a striker score this much in a season. Like, even Kyle Larin, when he was like at his peak, he wasn't scoring this much at club level. Why is Promise David not getting in? It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. So certain things just aren't making sense. And it's very disappointing, I think, especially when we've never had a depth pool like this. And I'm not saying we have like the depth of like peak Brazil or nothing, but Canada has never had this depth pool. And it just feels like we're not, one, capitalizing on this golden generation, and two, not capitalizing on the depth that we have. And I think that's worrying because we need someone, and I'm not saying Sack Marsh, but we need him or someone to make these calls, to make these decisions, to help the team, to do the best for the team. I often think about the Stefan Eustáquio quote after one of our Copa America games. It might have been the game where we went against Argentina. I don't know though. But where he essentially said, we need to support the CPL. We need to essentially look at the CPL and help that CPL develop because it helps our game develop. Then in a totally separate interview, he says that he questioned the long-term success of the Canadian men's national team. And I think those two quotes kind of go hand in hand because it really does feel like who's next, what's next for the Canadian men's national team. And we are by no means like sitting here going, oh man, like who's next after Alphonso Davies? Because in theory, hopefully knock on wood, Alphonso Davies has many more years of top level football in his legs. Same goes for a lot of those guys. But the golden generation will come to an end. And then you go, well, who's next? What's next? How are we developing the game here and players here to get better, be better, have the next generation ready? Because at times it doesn't feel like we're really investing in the future. It feels like we're trying our best in the present, and that's absolutely great. But to be a great team, you need to be doing both simultaneously. You have to be doing great in the present, and you have to be making sure that you're taking the right steps to ensure that you're going to do great in the future. It feels like we're doing one of those things, kind of, while trying to be good in the present. I do think that there are things that we could be doing better. Like I said, developing the CPL, showing up when it matters most, picking squads, adjusting our system, adjusting our tactics. And then also you have to look to the future. What is next? What is next for the future? Is the CPL the future? Is recruiting all the dual citizens our future? What is our future? And I think that there needs to be a healthy balance of developing the CPL and helping develop young Canadian players here, and developing our MLS team academies and developing our just Canadians here, and then also searching out for. And then looking at potential dual citizens. I mean, look at Promise David. He was born in Canada, raised in Canada, came through the Canadian, systems and whatnot, but he could have chosen Nigeria. Nico Seeger was born in Canada, but then was in the Croatian development systems and then ended up choosing Canada. We have to keep an eye out for guys like that because we don't want to let someone, say we have like a Steve Smith somewhere that in the TFC Academy, and he's the next best thing, but he can also declare for, I don't know, England. We don't want to lose out to England, right? Because England wouldn't want to lose out to us. We need the best possible players, if that makes sense. We need to keep an eye out for guys that could be looking elsewhere. Well, I could go play for Italy. I could go play for Germany. I could go play for France. We need to be on the lookout for that, and we need to make us attractive enough to be like, no, you want to play for Canada because we're going to need you and you're going to do well here, and Canada is going to be a team that you're going to want to play for. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I didn't really cover the Curacao game all too much. I definitely covered it a bit, but this was more so frustrations that I've had built up over the last year-ish with the men's national team. And this kind of felt like the time to let him out, because we should have beaten Curacao. All due respect to them, absolutely. They, like I said, given the credit, they played a very good game. So, but coming off a 6-0 over Honduras, and just the fact that Curacao is about on par with Honduras, it feels like we should have beaten them pretty comfortably, but we didn't. And, I've had many things to say about our boys and our manager and the way we play. And I mean, if you think that I'm only doing this right now because we drew against a team we should have beaten, go and listen to some of my Copa stuff. Go and listen to any Canada game that I've covered. I can guarantee you I will be harping on about overrun in the midfield and wasteful chances, which I harped on a little bit about today. Harped on about inconsistency, harped on about tactics, harped on about X, Y, and Z. Whatever I've harped on about here today, I can almost guarantee you I have harped on about it in the past, just not as negatively, because frankly, we would get results, or we have gotten results. We didn't. To me, a draw here feels like a loss because we should have won this, and we should be thinking about who's our quarterfinal opponent, but that's not the case right now. We have to now think about getting a result with El Salvador, which, once again, all due respect to El Salvador, we should do. But now there's that seed of doubt of, oh my goodness, what if El Salvador does pull off the upset? We'll have to wait and see. I obviously will keep covering us, as I always do, and keep covering on the El Salvador game and the rest of the Gold Cup, however long we go in the tournament. I do still want to say this was pretty negative. I'm not used to being this negative about the men's national team, because even when I am a bit negative, I am still pretty positive. This was mainly just all negative. It was a very disappointing night. This felt like like I said, it felt like a loss, because it should have been a loss. We were very lucky that it wasn't. But yeah, it felt like a loss, especially coming off of everything we did. So very, very much a shame, very much a disappointment. But we go again against El Salvador. Hopefully we get the win against El Salvador. And after that, we will see what happens. Hopefully we've learned from our mistakes. Hopefully we've learned a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed. I apologize once again for being negative. But I hope you enjoyed. And maybe you agree with me, and you were waiting for someone to say these things. Maybe you disagree with me. Let me know. DM me. Let's have a conversation at Maple Footy Pod. We can have a conversation about it, as long as we're all respectful. If you're listening on YouTube, maybe comment in the comments, and I'll see it, and I can reply back. If you're listening on other platforms, and obviously you can't comment on those, so that's where DM me. We can chat. If you agree or disagree, I'd be very interested to hear what other people think. But outside of that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for putting aside the time to do so, and I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, we'll hope that next game is better. So until next time. Cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.